Hey guys, Freddy here. Welcome back to another The Path to a New Edition. Because it's that time of the month when Wizards of the Coast have brought out their new Playtest package, Playtest Package 7. Now, when I started this series way back last year or so, I was talking about the D&D Next playtest packages in the lead up to 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons from 2012. And I thought it was quite interesting to look in the directions that Dungeons & Dragons could have gone. And that kind of naturally led into the playtest packages that they've been bringing out for 1D&D 5.5 edition, 6th edition, whatever they end up calling it. Because it was having an experiment. They were playing around with the rules. But to sum this one up, this is where they are going back and putting things back in place. Things they've tried they don't like. So there's a lot of things in here which are, oh, we've moved this back to where it was before. And they've started to introduce some things from Tasha's Cauldron of Everything, I think the book's called, where they brought out a lot of alternative rules. And they're bringing them across and letting people playtest them on a much wider scale. But apart from that, there's only a couple of small changes. Now, one of them's one of the things I've been asking for ages. But there's not a lot to this one, so this should be a fairly short video. Anyway, we start off, and this is dealing with 5 classes. They're going back to Barbarian, Fighter, Sorcerer, Warlock, and Wizard. So we start off with a Barbarian. And we note things. Danger Sense returns to level 2. Brutal Critical returns to level 9. Relentless Rage returns to level 11. Persistent Rage returns to level 15. Nominal Might returns to level 18. They're just putting everything back in place. There's not anything really new here. There's very small changes where they're just trying things. This is rearranging the deck chairs on the Titanic type thing. Just making very small changes to see if these things work. There's nothing really major and new here. Carrying on through, as I said, there's minor description changes here, how things work. We've got the Path of the Wild Heart, which were the Aspect Warriors before, I think they were called, where you could be a bear aspect warrior and that kind of thing. And they have fixed the bear, which I am incredibly happy about. Bear, level 3 Rage of the Wilds, Bear. When you activate your rage, choose 2 damage types other than Force or Psychic. You have resistance to the chosen types until the rage ends. Now this is a good change. While it doesn't massively weaken the power, although I think a lot of Barbarian fans will be complaining about it, I think it's really interesting because it still lets you have resistance to most things, but it adds a tactical element to this ability. Because you are looking at the combat, you're about to rage in, and you're going, well, he's doing this type of damage, he's doing that type of damage, so I'm going to become resistant to those. However, then a wizard can pull out a lightning spell which you didn't expect, and you take full damage from it, or somebody throws a fireball and you didn't expect it. So you can still be surprised, but adds this tactical element, and that's something I really like. That's a majorly good improvement. Further on, they've removed the bear and made it elephant, and then Power of the Wilds, bear has become lion. They've also added this Path of the World tree. Barbarians believe their rage links them to the cosmic ash tree Yggdrasil. Now, they get abilities here to summon up the roots of the world tree to yank people back to them for fighting and things like that. But that sounds kind of druid-like. Multiclassing a barbarian with a druid should give you those kind of abilities. And while you can get subclasses which give you some elements of another class, magical thieves and things like that, this feels like it's an add-on. It doesn't feel like it's a core rulebook thing. And there's a couple of those in this book, or in this playtest package. We've got Path of the Zealot, we're on to the Fighter. Well, one of the things they've done in the Fighter here is decided to change the weapon mastery slightly. So the weapon mastery, as they introduced a couple of playtest packages about, is when you pick up a weapon and you have weapon mastery with that weapon, it has a feat which you can activate, things like cleave or fast attacks and things like that. So a dagger will let you have a couple of attacks because it's a fast weapon if you are skilled with it. A great sword will let you cleave through one target into another if you are a master of it. But the fighter, they have changed slightly in that he can swap out those feats. So a fighter as a weapon of master of all weapons can change his dagger ability to cleave and gain that if he wants. And that makes a lot of sense. That's a good ability for a fighter, making them better with weapons than all the other martial classes. That's another nice one. One of the small changes they've done, a new subclass they've introduced, is the Brawler. Now, they're very proud of this. They talked about this quite at length. But I'm not that impressed. Again, it feels like something which should be in a new book, not in the core rules. Basically, this is somebody who's good at brawling, and they can pick up anything, grabbing a chair, and they can add one of these weapon feats to that chair, so they can cleave with a chair, smashing through people because they're a brawler and used to using improvised weapons. It's an interesting thing, but doesn't feel core. Carrying on through, we've got sorcerers. Again, very minor changes. They are subclass returns to the 2014 level progression for sorcerer subclasses. Little bits of changes. Warlocks, they're trying something new with. Slightly. They gain a new ability. I'm trying to see what it's called. Doesn't matter. They gain the ability now to recharge their spell slots using an ability rather than needing a rest for it. They can only do this once per long rest, which gives them extra spell slots, which, given Warlocks have very few spell slots, kind of makes sense. I'll be interested to see how it balances out, just suddenly giving them some extra spell slots, though. Continuing through. There's lots of wee bits in here for them, modifying, because they are kind of changing things about a bit with it. Wizards, they're trying to return those to being the master and having of magic and having the widest range of spells. So the old spell list that they'd introduced in the last couple of books, the primal, I can't even remember the other ones, but clerical and wizardly magic basically were the sort of three. They have gone, and we're back to using the spell lists out of the 2014 rulebooks. Carrying on through, some minor changes. We've got some spells. We've got the properties for the weapons, which they are pretty much the same. In fact, I think they're identical to previous ones. And detailing those out, Cleese, Grave, Nick, Push, Sap, Slow, Topple, Vex. Some adventuring gear, and then we're onto the rules glossary, which is very few pages because basically we're back to just using the core rules. They're not introducing too much new. I believe they've changed short rest. If I can find it. Probably under S's. No, they haven't. I thought they'd mentioned in their video that they changed it, but the text doesn't say. I thought they were going to limit the number of short rests, but they don't seem to have done that. So you can still take as many as you want. But these are basically just returning back to the old rules. They haven't modified much at all. So we've got tool proficiencies, tremor sense, true sight. The stuff they introduced in earlier packages, which has been successful, but they haven't made much modifications to it now. This is the most bland of the playtest packages because they really are out of ideas here. This is just everything we have seen before. We either saw it in Tasha's Cauldron of Everything, we saw it in previous playtest packages, or we saw it in the 2014 rulebooks. There's nothing really new here except the two slight tweaks that I've kind of gone into in detail. So, I'm a bit disappointed with this one. It's very much a matter of diminishing returns. I don't know how they can do many more playtest packages after this, because if they're just going to keep tweaking very little things, then that's not worth doing. But anyway, I think I've whittled on for quite long enough as usual, so thank you very much for watching. But as always, most of all, you look after yourselves, and I'll catch you later. Bye now.